Hey, it's Emma from Perfume of Praise. This is our second video in the series of Bible journaling basics. So the first one was looking at different journaling Bibles that you could use and our hymn books and different things that I've used over the years to give people some ideas of what to do to get started. Today is basically looking at my top 10 products that I would use in my Bible. These are not needed, and I said in the last video, Bible journaling can be used with colouring pencils and a pen and a notebook. These are just if you're wanting to be able to be a bit more creative and to invest a little bit more in what you're doing. And these are some ideas to get started. A lot of these have come from like the range and the pound shop, some of the other things that I've bought online, but they have equal kind of versions, I guess, in shops that are more local and you don't need to spend so much money. So enough rambling, let's get started. So my number one would be these micron pens. So they come in different sizes with their tips. I think it's like 0.01 up to 0.8 is the biggest that I have. But so these are all black and they're good for writing in Bibles because they generally don't bleed through to the other side. So you might be able to see a bit of a shadow, just like you would in any notebook with any pen potentially. But it's just really good for writing. It has archival ink. I'm not an expert on this, but basically it means that if water gets on it, it doesn't smear. So it means that if you were painting or doing something with watercolors, that you put this on, and if you're writing over the top of it, it's not going to go all gloopy. So they're brilliant, really good. They're quite an investment. I think they're maybe like £12 for 6 of them, but I've used these for 3 years, so they're definitely a good investment to have. So that's number one. Number two would be watercolors. So I'm not a watercolor expert by any means. I think that these here are ones that I got off Amazon. I think, again, you can get them in Pound Shop or in the range for cheaper versions. These are Prima ones, Pastel Dreams. And basically, I'm not going to go through the whole bits with you, but these are really mucky. Somebody probably who's a really good artist would clean up. Maybe not. Maybe this is a sign that I'm an amazing artist because I just leave it messy. Watercolors are basically what you use in your Bible if you're not wanting to have something really dramatic where it's like thick paint on it, but it gives a bit of a hint of a colour. You can obviously layer it up if you're wanting it to be a bit more vivid. And I think these are great. So I use these all the time, sometimes just to give a bit of a background, sometimes to colour in stamps. But yeah, so they're great. So there's a whole range of them, but I would definitely have watercolours in my go-to kit. And when I'm using watercolors, I generally use one of these, which is a water brush. This water brush was actually given to me as part of the design team for 14 Craft Bar. You can get them from their website, and how you use them is you unscrew here and you fill here with water, pop this back on, and it's kind of like instead of carrying a pot of water with you, you have your own little reservoir of water, and you take the tip off. And it is a paintbrush tip, and as you are painting, you pick up the paint with the top of the brush and you squeeze just a tiny bit just to release some of the water down from the reservoir into the tip, and then it becomes like a working paintbrush. And the more you kind of squeeze on it, the damper the brush and the kind of less vivid the colour is. So these are great, and again, if you're travelling or you're going somewhere and you don't want to be carrying water, they're brilliant just for adding a little bit of background detail to your pages. So that's my number two. Number three is a date stamp. So these are like retro. Do you remember I used to kind of have these when I was playing shops and stuff as a kid? But I think I got this. I don't even want to try to pronounce this because I used to call it Sustreme Green, and then someone said it's Sustrana Grana. But whatever you call it, this is where I got it from, like there for about £2. The reason I use this is I always date all of my entries, especially in my prayer journal, because I think it's lovely, to look back and think, I prayed this, or I learned this on such and such a date, and it related to whatever was going on in my life at the time. So it's really nice just to have that as a bit of a reminder. Yeah, so this one goes up to like 2090 or something, so you get a good long time out of them. So that's another one. Washi tape. is my next one. I have a feeling actually I have done two together, the water brush and the watercolor, so it may be 9.5 and not 10, top 10 things. But anyway, we'll fire on. So washi tape is basically, it's kind of like thin pattern paper with a sticky adhesive side. So it's kind of like a cross between sellotape and just ordinary paper. I love it and I use it all the time for either sticking things on or for layering behind things. There are just a few of the ones that I have. I did a de-stash a wee while ago because they're quite cheap. They're really, that's going to roll away. I'll leave them like this. Because they're quite cheap, they're really addictive. If you see them somewhere and you think, oh, that's only £2, I'll buy that, and then you end up with a whole collection. And generally what I do is I kind of rip it in half, and it just gives a bit of a more rugged, less kind of clinical look to it, and then I will use that, as I say, behind something for layering or at the bottom of the page just to decorate it a wee bit. So washi tape is a definite go-to. You get tons of washi tape in B&M and Home Bargains for like £2 for 20 or something. So yeah, as I say, they're addictive to buy. I've lost count of what number we're on, but Gelatos would be probably, these would be the ones that I've gone through so far would kind of be the ones that you can get that are a little bit cheaper. These would be more of the splurges. And Gelatos are, again, I'm not an artist, but Gelatos are basically like a pigment in a stick. So it's kind of like a lipstick, lip balm idea, but full of colour. So I have them in like a whole pile of different colours, and I'll just kind of show you on a bit of paper. You just kind of scribble it onto the paper like this. And then you can use your finger or like a, what do you call that? Baby wipe. My mind completely went. To kind of smear it. And it's really good for doing background colours or around the edges of your page. They can blend really well together. So if you have a couple of colours that are quite similar, you can mix them to make new colours. I've got some in metallics. They're great. They're quite an investment, but they're definitely worth it. And again, I've had my whole set for about 4 years and they're still going strong. So they're a good investment to have. Think maybe number 7, who knows. Again, a bit of an investment, but cheaper that you can buy them individually, or distressed oxides. So this is really like an ink pad. It comes in tons and tons of colours. And I use these generally through Stencils so that you can get some ink on your page. Another really cool thing to do is, I'm not going to have any plastic to do it on, but you would basically get a bit of plastic or packaging, squish it on, and just spray a tiny bit of water, and then you kind of smush it all together. I think the correct term is smooshing technique, which sounds like it's made up, and I think it was like a million years ago, and now everybody just calls it smooshing. And you can then dab it onto your page, and it just gives a really nice background effect, and again can layer up with different colours on top of it. The good bits about these, and I'm not sure about the whole technicalities of it, but the oxides react to water. So if you put a layer down and spray some water on it and rub like a cloth or something over the top to absorb some of the water off, you'll get like a kind of speckled effect, which is probably not the best explanation for it, but it's a really cool technique that you can do, and I'll maybe show that more detail in another video. So distressed oxides are another must. Again, used for backgrounds, or can be used through stenciling or for stamping. Okay, where have I got to? Maybe 8 would be anything for doing lettering. So you can get these alpha stamps and alpha stickers. The alpha stickers you can get in like B&M and stuff as well. Really cheap, and they're really good for being able to put words down. To say you wanted a title to kind of be your focal point of your page, or something that you've learnt. If you aren't confident with your writing, or you want to add a bit of colour, then you can get tons and tons of different types. There's literally thousands of different ones, and these are relatively cheap to get, and I use them all the time. And the other is alpha stamps. Again, I know that the range have quite a few of these. Some of them can be quite expensive, so if you kind of shop around, you can get them quite cheap. And for these, you would use then an acrylic block. So you're kind of investing in this, but again, I've had this like 4 or 5 years and it's perfect. And all you really do is take your letter off, if I can get it, and you stick it onto this, to the acrylic block. Put your ink like the Distress Oxides on top of it. And then because it's clear and it has lines, you can get it, if you're a bit like me and want it to all be straight. I'm working on that, but then you can use this and just stamp it on, and it means that you can stamp out again a title or a word or whatever that you're wanting to reflect on. So the kind of alpha stuff, either stickers or stamps, are a really good investment to have. Another thing with the stamps would be just general stamp sets. I'm not sure if that is maybe not reflecting well because it's plastic, but we'll go with it for now. I got these from Creative Retreat a wee while ago, but you can get these cheap as anything. The best place I think for stamps around Northern Ireland is in the Works. They have loads of different range of them. They seem to like turn over quite quickly, so you could get them for like $1.99 and then, you know, go in a month later in normal times and all the shops are open, and you would be able to get like another type. So that's quite nice that they don't kind of keep the same stock all the time. You don't necessarily need to have ones that have, you know, Christian words or anything on them. It's just nice, anything that you can use, like flowers or like wee animals or whatever you're kind of into for decorating. It's great to be able to use them just to add a bit of something to your page. And the last thing that I have would be stencils. I think I got a pack of 10 of these in the range for £2. They're brilliant. Stencils can be super expensive if you go for the really branded ones. And I have a couple of them, but the majority of mine are really cheap ones. And the idea again of these is that you would use, whether it's paints or ideally the Distress Oxides or some kind of ink, and you put them on like a sponge or whatever you're wanting to use, and kind of put a bit of a background onto your page, and it just adds a wee bit of like a different dimension, I guess, to your page that you're doing. Because sometimes it can be really intimidating, like just looking at a blank page and thinking, where on earth do I start? Whereas when you have a bit of a background down, it kind of takes the pressure off because you've got some colour already on the page, and it means then that you're good to go with your writing. So that was like a whistle-stop tour of my top 9.5, I think we worked out, products that I would use. I'm going to try to link some of them down below just if you wanted to have a look at them on Amazon. But as I said, the majority of them, it's much better, I suppose, supporting more local places. And if you can sort of get them somewhere cheaper, then definitely do that. I hope everybody's well. I think I'll be back with another video soon, just with a few different techniques for backgrounds and stuff that I've gone through today in terms of stenciling and stamps and things. So yeah, take care everybody, and hope to chat to you all soon. Bye.